Outriders. What an awful launch. Yes, we're gonna rant about it now. Yep. So Outriders launched on the 1st of April, and maybe, just maybe, it's all just been an April Fool's joke on all of us. Like the majority of players out there, I played the Outriders demo. Pretty much loved it, even though I felt the mechanics seemed rather clunky. But I pre-ordered the full game, and again, like many of us, I couldn't wait to log in on launch day and play through the rest of the story. Kill a bunch of bad guys, get myself some awesome loot in the process, hopefully. However, in a very unfortunate fashion, the launch has been, pure and simply, a total catastrophe. To begin with, it took me quite a while to log in, as the servers kept crashing, and were down for long periods of time. Now, fair enough, that's probably to be expected, given how much hype there was around Outriders, and when you've got lots of players trying to log in, that's going to overload the servers. We see this happen with many other online-only games. Happens to Destiny all the time. And even though I always criticize companies for not implementing certain methods that stop this from happening, I can understand if it does happen for the first few hours. It definitely shouldn't, as these multi-billion-dollar tech giant companies should really have their servers ready, making sure their infrastructure is operating properly is important. But I guess it can happen. The problem is, it's not just for the first few hours. It's still happening now, 3 days in. I can't seem to stay connected for more than 1 to 2 hours max. But in any case, with all this happening, understandably, there are a lot of players that are quite angry at not being able to play the game that they've just bought, when it's supposedly meant to be playable. And again, understandably, quite a few players are asking for refunds. But regardless, the real bigger issues are actually everything else that players are experiencing. These shown on screen now are all the known issues so far. The problems on PC definitely seem to be the worst. Now, in my opinion, this is not acceptable. How can there be so many different problems which are affecting such a high number of players? Is it purely due to server overloads? I'm guessing it's not. So how did all these issues slip through into the full version of the game? Were these different things and scenarios not tested? Or were they not tested enough to know whether these problems would arise? I mean, I get that the tech these days is highly advanced, and there are aspects that are difficult to test until it's done in an environment on a large scale, but surely, given the amount of issues the game has, they had to know on some scale that this was going to happen, especially when there was a demo that on the surface seemed to play very well for well over a month before the release of the full game. I mean, it took a lot less for Cyberpunk to get completely blasted, and Cyberpunk was playable for most of us, but Outriders has a very high number of players having problems that make the game unplayable, at least on PC. Now, the reason why I'm not very happy about all this is because personally I've experienced and continue to experience the blurry visuals issue, and sometimes the micro stuttering issue. It also could be lag. In any case, I can assure you it's all incredibly frustrating. The demo worked beautifully. It was so crisp, it was polished. It makes me feel like I've been conned. I mean, how can the demo run so well, but as soon as they turn on the full version of the whole game, looks like an average shooter on the PlayStation 3? Now, allegedly, there is a workaround for the blurry visuals, which is to switch off the FPS limiter and the VSync options in the display settings menu. And sure enough, it definitely helps, but the graphics still don't look right. Now, I will most definitely agree that this is not as bad as the hard crash, obviously, but it is still making me not want to play the game at all. And it's only because it looks dreadful, and I don't really want to play a game that looks like I'm playing Max Payne on the PlayStation 3. I mean, it's so weird. The menus look great, but as soon as you go in-game, it looks awful. I just hope they get this fixed soon, because otherwise I'm gonna have to ask for a refund. I really hate to say it again, but Cyberpunk got a lot of stick for being so broken, and CD Projekt Red is really struggling. But I didn't have any of these issues on Cyberpunk, apart from the odd bugs which we're all aware of, and they are also definitely present to some extent here in Outriders as well. Now, with all that said, I do have to praise the devs' attitude towards this whole thing. They have non-stop put out updates and workarounds and fixes for lots of these issues. Lots of people tweeted the Outriders account, and they were replying pretty quickly with various different steps that that players should take. Basically what I'm trying to say is that they're really trying very hard to communicate clearly and effectively with anyone that might be having problems. They've also been very transparent from the start when they released videos and showcased information about the game. Players have all been very praiseful and in many instances stating that this is how gaming developers should be with their games. And I totally agree, and this is exactly how devs should approach their games and communities. But it does not mean we shouldn't criticize how terrible this launch has really been. I just hope it gets sorted quickly. Now if you're having issues, make sure to visit the Outriders subreddit for all the fixes and workarounds currently available. The link to the page is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon. Goodbye.